Hey everyone, welcome to DittDott. My name's Amanda. Today I'm going to be making a lightened up version of shepherd's pie. It's fall, and once fall hits, there's apple pies and pumpkin pies, roast, and hearty stews. It just can feel like the calories are starting to stack up on you. I'm not a calorie counter, but I do like to think of ways to sometimes lighten up meals. So we're going to be doing the shepherd's pie, and we're going to be using turkey meat instead of beef, always keeping with real whole food ingredients, and come out with a delicious dinner. One way that we will lighten up the shepherd's pie is by using, instead of 3 potatoes, I'm going to use some cauliflower, and I'm going to make these in the Instapot because I can make this earlier in the day and it will just kind of keep warm for me. And then that way, when I go to make the rest of my dinner, it'll be very quick. So you don't even have to cover it. Just put in, at least 1 cup of water, and we'll set this for 8 minutes and let it cook. So I'm going to drop a little bit of olive oil down in my skillet, and I like to chop my vegetables as I go. A lot of times chefs will say mise en place all your ingredients, which means pre-cut them. And sometimes that's good. But a lot of times I find it faster just to kind of work right up next to your skillet. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I've got this white onion, carrots, and celery. So I'm going to give this a chop and I'll be right back. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and season this up with some salt. Oh, I'm gonna chop up some, I keep getting out of the frame. I'm gonna chop up some garlic too. I forgot to do that. Keep my garlic right there. Oh, these are tiny cloves. That's so annoying. I hate it when you got the little tiny cloves because then you gotta peel a lot more. I'm gonna give these a chop and try to fix my camera, and we'll get them in the skillet too. When I've got a bunch of cloves of garlic, I just kind of gather them up into a little pile. I put the tip of my knife down on the cutting board and I just run it back and forth because, oh, yuck, that one was rotten. Because I just need a rough chop. I don't need them to be a certain size. I don't need it to be a garlic paste. A rough chop going back and forth every once in a while, wiping your knife down, gathering it back up, and chopping them again. I'm also going to add some garlic powder because I like to duplicate my seasoning sometimes like that. Okay, so I'm going to get this garlic in. And so far the only seasonings we have are salt and pepper. So I'm going to open up my spice drawer and let's see what kind of trouble can we get into. I want to grab some thyme, and what else do I want? I want a bay leaf. And then I think I'm just gonna stick with garlic and onion powder. Keep it simple. Okay, I've got this on like medium low. So again, I think layering your flavors with dried plus fresh, it just kind of adds depth per se. So that was onion powder, garlic powder, and some thyme. Oh, sage might be good in here too. I'm not going to add the sage. Well, do we want to add sage? Let's add the sage. Sage, sage, sage. I'm trying to use more sage this season. It's not a seasoning I cook with very often. I used it very recently, fresh sage, in my gnocchi dish. Just 1 bay leaf. And then this is dried, obviously. Now I get all these back in the right order. Hey, I think I did it. Haha, I actually took the time to alphabetize them, so now I'm trying to actually keep that up. So one way that I'm lightening up this shepherd's pie is a lot of times I would actually use a little bit less veggies and more on the meat. So, 1.5 pounds or so of, usually I would do ground beef. I know a lot of traditional shepherd's pies are made with lamb meat, but Americans tend to use beef more often in their shepherd's pie. So, but instead of using 1.5 pounds, I'm only gonna use 1 pound of turkey meat, and I'm using a lot more vegetables. Now that my vegetables have just had some time to get working, I'm gonna go ahead and just add the turkey straight to the skillet. So it's just 1 pound of you know, extra lean turkey breast that has already been ground up for me. And then I'm going to go ahead and add some salt and pepper straight to the meat itself. Again, layering those seasonings. My next video is going to be a kale and sausage soup, and I am going to put that one out. But I feel like I've put out just several soup and like salads in a row, and I'm like, hey, we need to get another hearty dish in here. So I decided to postpone my kale and sausage soup video, which I'm actually really excited about. It's so good. And throw this turkey shepherd's pie into the mix. At this point, everything's kind of very dry. So I'm going to add in some fat. Now, like I said at the beginning of the video, I use whole real food. So I never use a low-fat butter substitute or anything like that. Anytime that you have something that has the words low-fat in front of it, you are going to have, the food is going to be more processed, and they're going to have additives added to it to keep it tasting good. I like to stick to as few ingredient whole foods as possible when I am cooking. So I use butter, and I make sure that the only ingredients are cream and salt. So this is just straight up butter. My philosophy is that our bodies can just process foods that are as close to nature as possible. At this point, as the turkey is going to start cooking, we're going to have to add ingredients to make a gravy. Now, last night I made hamburgers in a mushroom gravy, and if I had remembered to keep that gravy, oh my gosh, would I be using that today? But last night I wasn't thinking about it. It's like, I'm not gonna just save the gravy. Sometimes I do. When I make a really good gravy, sometimes I will put it in a Ziploc bag and freeze it, and it's perfect to add to a dish like this. But I forgot to save it, so that's fine. We'll just make the gravy right here in the skillet along with our beef and vegetables. Turkey and vegetables. In order to do that, in order to make a good gravy, you do have to have a fat, a flour, thickening agent, and a liquid. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of olive oil because basically we need something for our flour to stick to. And I'm going to sprinkle the flour across the meat in just a thin layer because we don't want it to clump up. I'm going to incorporate this flour into the oil and veggies and meat, and you're gonna get this like clumpy mess. Here, let me show you. And what I'm looking for is you see how like over here there's still some white? I'm looking to see all the white of the flour disappear. So then we need to add a liquid. You could add water, that's not gonna add much flavor to the game. So I'm gonna actually use beef stock. Even though I'm using turkey meat, I'm still a red meat eater, so I'm okay with using beef stock. You can use chicken stock, you can use vegetable stock, whatever you want. And we're going to not cover, just like a little bit, and we might add more. And I'm gonna slowly, because I don't want to slosh it over the sides. I'm checking my heat, it's still on medium. Get this to incorporate, and we want it to kind of thicken up into a nice gravy. Again, if I was making this full on, a company fancy or meal, I would actually add some cream. But this time, if I want to add any kind of milk product at all, I'll just add my milk. And even with that, I use whole milk. I don't use any low-fat products when I'm cooking, like I said. I am going to give this a taste. I do want it to thicken up a little bit more. I'm not sure if I'm going to add milk or not. I'm going to see how it tastes. That's really good. I'm glad I added the sage. That actually is really good. So your sauce is good when you want to like keep eating just the sauce. Nope. That's good. I don't even think it needs the milk. So we're going to keep it light by not adding in any milk, because we're going to be adding milk and butter and all that to our mashed potatoes too. I'm going to add some peas to this, and then the bottom part will be done. And then we'll have to get on to the topping. So just a handful of frozen peas. You could also add some corn. I think I've even done it with canned green beans before. Whatever vegetables you like, mushrooms. There's no rules. Okay, I'm gonna turn this down to low, and then I'm gonna preheat, make sure it's empty, oven. We're just gonna do convection bake. Regular bake is fine too. We're gonna hit it at 375. I just made that up, 350, 400, whatever. While that's preheating, we're gonna go make our mashed potatoes. Okay, so I drained the potatoes and the cauliflower. And normally if I was just making plain mashed potatoes, I would use a potato masher. But because I want to get the cauliflower really pureed up, I'm going to go ahead and use my electric whisk. So I'm going to start seasoning this with some salt and pepper. And then I'm going to put a pat of that butter in. We are lightening up this meal, but I still want it to taste good. You can also, though, substitute out whatever, lower fat ingredients that you prefer cooking with, if that is your speed. Okay, so another secret ingredient that I like to actually use a little bit less butter and to give a really nice tang is sour cream. I love sour cream in my mashed potatoes. So I'm gonna go ahead and stir this a little bit, and then I'll add just a little bit of milk. Too much, especially because the cauliflower isn't going to absorb the milk like the potatoes will. So they're nice and creamy. All right, let's give them a taste. It's so good. Because of the ratio of potatoes to cauliflower, I don't even really taste the cauliflower. I doubt my family would even know it's in here if I didn't tell them. If you do straight up pure cauliflower puree, it's gonna taste like cauliflower puree. That's fine, but it's not the same. And so this is still that like potato flavor and the wholesome, yummy, well, not wholesome, I don't know, whatever. It's delicious, but it's just lowering the calories. Just instead of, you can still have good stuff and just lower it just a little bit. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get this over here and get this thing in the oven. Okay, friends, my mic went out again. I apologize so much. So we had the mashed potatoes. We put them on top. I went ahead, if I was serving this for company, I would have transferred my meat and vegetables to a pie plate. But since I'm just cooking it for family, and because I used a skillet that is able to go into the oven, I just took my mashed potatoes and layered them on top of all of the meat and vegetables. I'll give you a closer view of that. So you can still see some of the meat and vegetables peeking around the side. And we're just gonna pop it in the oven for about half an hour. And we'll be back to taste and plate. Okay, so I just pulled it out of the very hot oven. And one thing that I like to do is I have this silicone handle gripper, and I'll put that on right away. And then I will take one of these and put it right here. And then that reminds everyone in the family that this skillet was in the oven and it is hot, so don't touch it. But lastly, I'm gonna just finish up with some just dried parsley. You could use fresh parsley too. Adds a little bit of color to the top. Totally don't need to do this if you don't want to. Like I said, normally if I was doing this for company, I would have put it in a pretty pie dish. But y'all are my family. You're my YouTube family, so we're just keeping it casual tonight. All right, let's give this a taste. Okay, since y'all are family, we're gonna eat straight from the skillet to give this a taste. It really does need to cool down. It's been bubbling away in the oven. I'm gonna get a little bit of these mashed potatoes and some of the meat, a bit of vegetable. That's comfort food right there, y'all. Nice and warm, and it's gonna be delicious. I'm gonna let it cool down for a little bit before I call the family down. This is really hot. I almost burnt my tongue there. And until the next video, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, and I'll see you around. Bye.